Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Top Lessons podcast. I am your host, Kathy Inglot, and with me today, I have a phenomenal guest. For those of you that do not know her yet, you will absolutely love her as much as I do because she goes by one name. She is a phenomenal performer, singer, songwriter, recording artist, disability advocate, CEO and founder of Ramped. She has literally a career that can go on for the next week of accommodations and accomplishments. And I think I'm going to literally give her the stage to name some of those herself. But just to give a little bit more of the flavor of what she's accomplished thus far. She's a world touring recording artist. She is a music executive. She is the host of PBS series Renegades, Recording Academy National Trustee, producer of a Grammys nominated album. She was born legally blind, but hasn't had anything stop her. Lachi herself created the UN organization that's recognized and called Ramped, which stands for Recording Artists and Music Professionals with Disabilities. This is an accomplishment on its own because she's worked with series like Netflix and the White House to ensure that advocacy for those with disabilities is something that is culturally recognized, and a passion for both her and myself to understand that those with the disabilities get the same rights and privileges as all of us. She's been featured on NPR, BBC, People, Time, Good Morning America, New York Times, Forbes, Vogue. I could go on for another week about her. Welcome to the show, Lachi.
Hey, everybody. What's up?
Thank you for being here with me. I mean, look, the accomplishments are phenomenal. And I wanted everyone to literally meet you because I fell in love with you when a friend of mine introduced me to your music. And she said, you have to listen to this song. And the song was obviously Lift Me Up, which was number 29 on the billboards. And I actually like allegedly myself. So I think that song is insanely great. But it's music that is inspirational. It's music that when you listen to the lyrics, it is absolutely, you know, it has a great beat to it, but it's also like the lyrics themselves stand for a cause. So I wanted to start off because I think your introduction is words coming out of me, but I think they do a better service when they come from you. To literally tell everyone your introduction as to being born legally blind, but having a career that is by far a career that has, you know, for those that are absolutely not disabled would be like, how do I outdo her? There's no stopping her to this. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you have found the inspiration to grow the career that you have in music, the TED speaker, the book writer, and also the advocate herself? Can you tell us a little bit about where all that inspiration comes from?
So, hi, everyone. My name is Lachi, like Versace, right? I am, for any blind person listening to this right now, I am a Black woman with cornrows. I am hanging out in my studio in New York City. I also identify as blind and neurodivergent. I identify as a New Yorker, an Aries, and a Nigerian. So there's a lot going on there. So watch out, okay? Like was mentioned, I am a recording artist and songwriter. I've had the pleasure and privilege to tour the world for my art and work with some amazing household names in dance music and pop and electronic. I am like you mentioned, a loudmouth for disability. I am so honored that I've been able to tour the world talking about my passion for disability in a way that I believe people need to hear it. So non-pity-filled, non-charity-filled, but with joy, fashion, music, glamour, love, and a pinch of soul. I am also an author. So we have a new book out called I Identify as Blind, which I'm going to talk more about. I am also the CEO and founder of Ramped, which stands for Recording Artists and Music Professionals with Disabilities. We train and consult music giants to be more disability inclusive and have more accessible design, while also cultivating a global network of music artists and industry professionals with disabilities, neurodivergence, and other conditions. And so if you're out there and you are a music person, come see us at Ramped. We also, I do the Glam Canes, glamcanes.com. So that's part of my fashion line. And
love that. If you all can
actually,
see it, we will make
let me
sure.
show you
Oh, there's
quick.
the
Let me show
one.
you one real quick.
There's the one.
Boom. So
Glam
this is one of my
Cane.
Glam Canes. We can get more into that in the future, but really, honestly, it was to combat like the erasure of, people being afraid to use their canes. And I'm going to have Arthur come over here and put this cane back right because it's falling over. But anyways, so
no, I
that's
love that.
That's pretty much me in a nutshell. I mean, people say, Lachi, what do you do for a living? And I tell them that I entertain people into giving a crap about disability and inclusion and accessibility, namely because I believe that everybody has something, but we're all just masking and we're afraid to be our fullest, most authentic selves. And if I could only get people to no longer be afraid of, being able to talk about these things with joy, humor, heart, passion, and fun, then we can all drop the masks and no one would have to, fear showcasing the deepest parts of themselves society has asked them to hide. And that's Lachi.
Love everything about you. I think your voice says your passion. It literally brings forward that aura that you are coming to the podcast with. And I've seen so many of your interviews now doing your research to be able to be like, who and how does she talk, speak, present. And every interview was literally as if, you were standing on top of like the Grammy Awards, shouting from the rooftop what your passion is about. And I have a quote written down from one of your interviews on Fox, and it's, "Don't pity us, compete with us," which I literally put it on a Post-it note, and I was like, I don't care who you are, right? You're speaking about specifically people with disabilities, but that that quote can apply to anyone, whether it's gender discrimination, whether it's race discrimination, anything, right? To be like, we should be competing with each other, but not pitying each other. I was like, because I had, a different background or a different color or a different disability, don't make it look like it's something less than it should be. And I said, I was like, this is it. This is the quote she should be having on a T-shirt because it would sell.
Hey, all right, I'll look into it.
I know, right? And I love how you portrayed saying, you're working with all these major music productions for accessibility and visibility, and having the stages be, accessible to people with disabilities, and ensuring that people are thinking about like, well, how do I ensure that I walk the right way so I don't have an issue or a concern? And, the Glam Canes are themselves, a sense of style for anyone who's using one. And I absolutely could see the passion that you bring. And I love it in every single way, shape, or form, because I think there needs to be, millions more like you that literally say, this is the world that we're living in, accept us, and make sure that there's an equal footing for all of us to be in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One of the things I wanted to ask you on is you have had an amazing journey, but I'm sure it's been a journey, as we all say, filled with lessons. Is there something you can share that has been a lesson for you thus far in your career that has helped you and shaped you to be the person you are today?
One of the biggest lessons that I learned is, when I was young, I was, blind and neurodivergent, which I am today. Back then, I was super ashamed, very shy because I was blind and neurodivergent. I was afraid, I was shy, I was ashamed. Today, I am very confident. I'm a social butterfly, very successful, but I am still blind and neurodivergent.
Yeah.
So obviously the blindness and the neurodivergence is not the issue, right?
Yeah.
And so the epiphany that I had was that it's not the condition that's the issue. It's the social conditioning, right? It is society, the way society views and puts the weight on folks who are different.
Yeah.
It is this need for folks to stay in line and not stand out and fit in as much as possible. And so what we do and what I did for a lot of my life was mask. I had much better vision when I was younger. And so I would do everything I could to be sighted passing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
try to appear as if nothing's going on here, nothing to see here.
Status quo, right?
And I would, hide as much of myself as I could. Now, the issue with masking is that takes up energy. That takes up brain space, right? You're not being your full self. When I started navigating the music industry, I started getting sent to recording studios and songwriting studios. And as time went on, I started getting into bigger and better studios, right? And I'm like, my manager's sending me out to Sony, sending me out to Warner. And I'm thinking, holy ghost. I need to make sure that I do my best here. Because I would be getting there and I'd be tripping over wires, or I'd be invited to dark galas and I wouldn't be able to wave back when someone waved me over to try to talk to me about a deal. So I had learned through like the grapevine that I had missed deals for not waving back. I had learned that people were kind of feeling uncomfortable in the studio because I'm tripping around and stuff and they don't really know what's wrong. And that's when I realized I needed to get ahead of this. Yeah. Like I need to let people know what's going on so that I can at the very least accommodate myself. So I can do my best work at these studios. I could do my best work in these networking events and not just let my life kind of pass me by because I'm trying so hard to fit in. So it started with me advocating for accommodation. And it wasn't even like, hey, I need this because I have a disability. It wasn't like that at all. It was just like, hey, I want to do my best and here are the things I need. And I already had a bit of a name for myself in the industry. So of course these studios were like, sure, all right, whatever. Like I can't do this, but I can do this. Like, can we work together to make it as accessible as possible? And through that, I just got better at my own job. Yeah. And then I got more confident. And then I started getting more jobs and I kept getting more confident. And it led to the confidence of me saying, why am I hiding this at all? Yeah. And I started to lean all the way in into having my cane out and then blinging the canes because my confidence changed who I was. I was like speaking and talking and having a good time and I had a big personality. So my canes needed to match. And so I started blinging out my canes. And then I had the big epiphany, which was, oh snap. I am a professional music artist that's doing well for myself. And I've been masking all this time. Mm-hmm. I can't be the only one. And the only reason I can't find others is because everybody else is masking, right? Yeah. And so that was how Ramped started. It was essentially me trying to say, wait, there's a bunch of professional music folks and sound folks and live entertainers who are out here doing amazing things, but they can't get over that hump because they have to mask. Yeah. Well, why don't we all just get together and start to change that for ourselves? And that was how Ramped started as well. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a long-winded way.
Oh, no, it absolutely
take that mask off, baby.
Yeah. I mean, look, the mask is so true, right? Because we have these cultural expectations from wherever our backgrounds are, right? Whether it's to not speak out against something or whether it's to stay quiet unless the person of authority gives you the floor to speak. And not a lot of people find their voice until later in life, when kind of, they're out of that box of cultural expectations. So I think the same thing goes for what you mentioned, when you found your voice and you truly became who you were, it's when I'm sure, the few doors that you had opened became tenfold because people mm-hmm. saw the real you and said, holy shit, this is why we haven't worked with her yet, because we just didn't know in some cases. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, how would you say if someone right now, if a young girl is, growing up in kind of the shadows of how you were when you were younger, what would be the first thing you would tell that young girl to say, do this, or this helped me, or, come join Ramped, right? I don't know if there's a certain restriction to that. But if there was, someone listening to this podcast that had a disability like yours, what would you say would be the one thing that you would say, what helped you along the way?
Yeah, I would say, first and foremost, the issue that you are facing is internalized ableism. Mm. It is not your condition that is the issue. It is not your neurodivergence that's the issue. It is not your difference that is the issue. Those are actually the things that make you strong. The actual issue is your internalized ableism. And you got that ableism because society is telling you a certain thing about yourself and trying to make you believe those things about yourself. But they are absolutely 100% not true. The best thing that you could do would be to accept the deepest part of yourself that society has been telling you to hide. Accept the deepest parts of yourself that people tell you are flaws or are weaknesses. Because guess what? Those flaws, those differences, those weaknesses, you overcompensate for those, right? You navigate differently. You problem solve for those. These are some really cool tools. Being a problem solver, that's a great asset. Because of your conditions and differences, it makes you determined to go as fast as the next guy. But you know what? Once you're accommodated for those overcompensations, that is when you're at your most powerful. So really what we need to do is recognize those parts of ourselves as the power within us, as our liberation. You know, the glam cane, if I were to literally be chilling with my 8-year-old self right now, I'd be able to give her a glam cane. I remember when I was around the age of 7 or 8, I threw my cane away. The social worker was like, your daughter's going to need a cane. And my mom got me a cane and I threw that junk out. I said, no, I already got enough devices. Everybody already looking at me.
Yeah.
I threw the cane away. But today I'd be able to give that girl a glam cane so that she can feel empowered and so she can combat her own erasure that she went through for, 20 years.
Yeah.
Right. I'd be able to give her that cane. And now I want people to see me with the cane. I use the cane to be seen in all of my disability glory. If I could give my 8-year-old girl self something, it'd be that she could go to Google and she can type in disability and music and see a bunch of role models like the folks that are here at Ramped, right? When I, at 8 years old, had told my parents I wanted to be an entertainer and a musician and a comedian, they were like, that's not how you spell doctor. Anyway, they were Nigerian, so that's why that was. But they didn't have like a disabled woman of color tearing it up on the stages or on the radio that they could point to put at the top of my vision board. Yeah. My teachers didn't have it. My friends didn't have it. And I didn't have it. So it was really hard to believe that I could do it. What was I going to do? Be the first? And the answer is yes. Everybody is the first them. And then lastly, my book. That book, I literally in my dedication, I dedicated it to my 8-year-old self because I finally am at a place where I could write the book I needed at 8. Well, it's not really for 8-year-olds, but you know what I mean.
Yes. It has a disclaimer on the bottom.
Yes, exactly. Guys, watch out. It's not for your kids.
Some are great, some are not.
The lessons are for everyone. This discussion that we need to take our masks off. We need to be able to talk about the deepest parts of ourselves from a place of power and liberation and not from this place of constantly being pathologized. We're so afraid of being seen as too much or too different or less than, and we're deathly afraid of being pathologized. But listen, at the end of the day, you could pathologize me for being a woman, right? Calling me, hysterical. You could pathologize me for being Black, with phrenology. You can pathologize queerness. You can pathologize transness. And so the reason why I embrace my disability identity is because it's essentially saying, screw you and your pathology. Your kryptonite does not work here, right? I'm getting to the point.
Mic drop. Oh my gosh. I literally, if I can make this go viral, I will do this because I literally feel like you should be everyone's best friend, everyone's inspiration, and everyone's example on a vision board to say, be more like you, because I cannot speak about, how many times, especially little girls, are told you can't be something, or you're not good enough, or you're not strong enough to do this. Or, like you said, coming from a certain culture where you have to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. And that talent you have inside you or that inspiration you have inside you gets dimmed because of something else.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you are, and for sure, my view, the first to be an example for so many out there, to be able to say, if she can do it, so can I. You've opened, I'm sure, many, many doors for those with disabilities behind you to be able to say, I can now be equal and accessible and visible to everything that everyone else without these disabilities has. And I can't wait for people to literally know about you in many other platforms that you haven't yet, had the ability to shine your light through. But I think your book, which I can't wait to read because it's coming out on January 27th.
Yes.
And for all of you out there, we will absolutely link the book so you can go and purchase it. And literally read Lachi's life and how she is who she is today. One of the things I love hearing with people who have a phenomenal career already like yourself is there something along the way that you look back on and you said, I wish I knew something earlier? And you touched upon a little bit of that already, theme-wise, but was there something in your career where you're like, if I learned this, if I knew this at 18, I would have been faster in my growth or inspiration? Anything stand out that you can point to that literally would, for those that are, in their 20s or 30s, they're like, if I could learn from Lachi's lessons, maybe this can be my faster track?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. So I talk a lot about a lot of my life stories and the stories of other sort of like celebrities and pop influencers and politicians that I was able to wrangle enough into interviewing for this book. I identify as blind. And, I call it I identify as blind because today I really stand on my disability identity. There's only pride and love there for those different parts of myself, right? But again, when I was younger, it was different. And the reason my demeanor has changed a little is there is a little bit of grief that I feel of like, God, if I had only been liberated so much earlier, right? Just, looking at how easy everything is when you're liberated, when you are no longer just hiding from everyone, including yourself, right? When you're in sort of that denial and just navigating life with just like a net over your face, right? Yeah. It's just like trying to navigate while you're in stuck.
Yeah,
trying to
like
navigate while you're stuck.
Scenario.
It's just so difficult. So there is a little bit of grief that I do feel of like, gosh, if Lachi had just come to me earlier. Yeah. And there are just a few moments. I mean, actually, one of the big aha moments I had on my journey was in 2016, which is, I guess, a 10-year anniversary now. I had always been sort of low vision, but I'd never been like blind up until that point, right? And my vision wasn't getting worse. But one day in 2016, and I talk about this in the book, boom. One day in 2016, I woke up blind. Boom, ta-da, it's here, type. And I remember thinking, like, I didn't have this reaction of like, oh no, my life is over. What do I do? I think my first thought was like, okay, how do I turn this into money? That's the Nigerian talking.
Yeah. And
then the other was like, how do I live? Mm-hmm. Like, I want to live right now. Like, I remember that day I went to the clinic to go like, get like, hello, I just went blind. Can somebody tell me what's going on?
Yeah.
And the doctor was like, he put some like sort of eye drops in my eye. I had a big corneal explosion. I had a few things happen at the same time in my eyes. And he gave me some drops and it gave me back just a teeny bit of my vision.
Okay.
And he was like, but I just want to tell you that this is going to keep happening. And you are now you're like cruising on a way from low vision to no vision. Oh, just so you know. And I thought, okay, well, I want to do a bunch of stuff before I totally lose my vision. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I want to jump out of an airplane. I want to like go, snorkeling, spelunking. I want to ride a camel. I want to meet all these different celebrities. I want to do all this stuff. Right. Mm-hmm. So a few years later, I started setting that up. and going like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I was like, let me make this into like a YouTube series. And I started running around and doing all of the things. And then it hit me where I was like, wait, when I totally lose my vision, why should I stop doing this?
Yeah.
Why should I stop living this awesome life? And this essentially, who you're talking to is me still doing all of that stuff.
Yeah, you can live it.
You know, a lot of times, exactly. And a lot of times when I talk to people, I'm like, they're like, you know what? If I lost my vision, I would just die. I don't know if I could live. And I'm like, dude, when I lost my vision, my first thought was time to live.
Yeah.
Right. And I decided like, okay, well, I'm blind. You know, I did it. So the scary part happened.
Yep.
And what am I going to do? Just sit down and do nothing? No, I'm going to live. And before that day in 2016, I was a little more confident. You know, I was doing some stuff in music, but I was kind of just wafting through life, right? Just kind of like, oh, let me try to pay my bills. Like, what's going on? Like, do I try to like, now I am hyper-focused, a visionary. The things I've always wanted to do, I am doing because I no longer have to fear the thing.
Yeah.
Because it's here. So yeah. I'm just like, my reaction is the reaction I want everybody to have. And the only way everyone's going to stop being like, oh, if I went blind, I would die, is if we started knowing how to talk about this stuff now.
Yeah.
Not from a place of fear, not from a place of pathology, not from a place of grievance, not from a place of inspiration porn or trauma porn, but from a place of joy, celebration, power, and pride. Because I want everyone to go blind one day and be as happy as I am. I mean, I don't necessarily want you to be blind, but I mean, I want you to.
I literally, like I said from the beginning, I was like, you are a phenomenal inspiration. And, you know, the story that you say about literally going dark is almost like a metaphor to when people kind of, you know, flatline on like a operating table and they go, or like they die for like a few seconds, right? And they have this vision of like, oh my God, when they go back to, you know, living, they have like a new inspired sense of themselves to live. And I think it speaks volumes only to those little few examples of like people who are, quote, reawoken to like live. But I think your example is even worse because meaning that it's something you lived with all your life, and then it progressively got worse. And then, you know, to not be a pun, but like there was a light that went out in you, but yet it did the opposite, right? It awoke you.
Well, I like to say first of all, the more unnormal I become, the higher my quality of life, right? Because what it really did was break me out of that rat race. It kind of broke me out of the system, right? It's kind of the system that's bringing us all down.
Yeah, look, like they say, people have a paycheck and they're prisoners to that paycheck, right? And they're prisoners
to their paycheck. They're prisoners to societal expectations or whatever, right? Like, I'm loving this discussion that men are having about baldness, where they're just all like, you know what? Screw it, I'm bald. Yeah, that's it. And they're all just looking for ways to just like, guys, whatever. You're still a human. Everybody is still a human being. Under all of these walls we've built up, under all of these expectations we've built up, under all of these prisons that we've built up for ourselves, we are humans underneath it all. And that's what we need to recognize within each other. Quit recognizing all of the doors and all of the stops and all of the thises and all of the that's, and start recognizing the human. And I think the day I woke up blind, I started to realize, like, what does the human Lachi want? Behind everything else, what does the human Lachi want? Let me give you, when I was 8, and we keep using the number 8, but this literally happened when I was 8. I had written down, and I know this because I went back and I found it. I had written down what I wanted to be when I grew up. Okay. I had said I wanted to be a famous music artist. I wanted to have a recording studio in Manhattan, and I wanted to be a writer, an author that was published by a big, fancy, big name publisher. And
check.
You know, life happened, and that I was nowhere near that trajectory, right? And then, you know, I wake up in 2016, right? And then it's like, your values change. You get to know who you are. You unravel all of the things society has put on top of you. And you say to yourself, what does my most liberated self want?
Yeah.
And I didn't, and you know, it's so funny. I didn't go back to like whatever. I didn't see that thing I wrote until more recently.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea of like pursuing music, which I've always loved, and then finally getting to write my story that is now published with Penguin Random House. And then also, you know, I produced an album with this artist named Chris Redding, an album about neurodivergence here in my studio in Manhattan. And it is now Grammy nominated. I'll find out if I win February 1st. You find the liberation, you find what your deepest self wanted,
yeah,
and then you just go out and do it.
I literally hope the billions of people out here on this world listen to this, because you know what gets me? And I want to shake people when I hear people who have no disability, no disadvantage, and all they do is complain. And they say, woe is me, or why did that person get it and I didn't get it? Or I can't find this job or this, you know, person in life, or whatever is wrong with them. The list can go on. And yet there's nothing positive in their voice. And
Right.
there's someone like you who has the ability to sit there and start venting if you wanted to about how many hurdles you've had to gone through. But you have none of that. Your voice is just the opposite of inspiration, positivity, equality, and advocacy. And nothing about you comes across as woe is me. But then there's people who have 2 legs, 2 arms, 2 perfect eyes, and literally the world is against them. And you want to shake those people and get them off their couch and off their pedestal of negativity. And you just want to say, wake up.
Right. Well, you know, it's so funny because I feel that disability, again, is not actually the issue. It's the condition.
Correct.
It's the conditioning that's the issue, right? And so these folks that don't identify with disability in any way, and then they're complaining maybe about a boyfriend or their job is too hard or whatever. And in reality, folks can look at them and say, wow, look at what you have. I think that's a different issue. I think I call that crabs in a bucket issue. And essentially it is, you know, you constantly feel that other people are getting everything and then you're not, no matter what's going on. Even if somebody's having a harder time than you, you think they're having a better time than you, because your mentality is a crabs in a bucket mentality, right?
Yep.
If one crab starts to try to get out of that bucket, everybody wants to pull that crab back down. That is what we call scarcity mindset. And the issue with that is, first and foremost, instead of being worried about the other crabs, we should be worried about this bucket. How do we get in this bucket? Who put us in this bucket? Like, we'd be mad at them, like, you know? And that's the system. We should be upset with the system. We should be upset with the arbitrary rules, not upset with the other people that have to figure out how to live this difficult life in this difficult system. Yeah. We should be coming together to try to rearrange this system, or to get the people benefiting from this system to want to change it, as opposed to trying to tear each other down. At the end of the day, with whether you have a disability or not, and I believe that everybody has some form of disability identity, some form of neurodivergence, some form of chronic condition or mental health condition, because listen, the umbrella of disability identity is so wide. It's everything from asthma to diabetes to tinnitus to general anxiety to light sensitivity. I mean, even in just those 5 things, most of the people listening has one of them, right? So anybody can look at any part of themselves and complain about it. Yep. And so what we really need to change is this mindset of, I feel inferior, or they are superior to me, right? And how do I get what they have, et cetera, et cetera. And the way we knock that down is looking at each other as equal humans. And it starts with being able to unmask and talk about these things in a non-taboo way.
Yeah. Could not said it better. Now, you are starting off the year strong. January, your book comes out, specifically January 27th. So what do the rest of the 11 months have in store for you?
Well, so first and foremost, we have just coming, I don't actually know when this is going to air, but right now, the next thing I'm doing is we're going to the NAMM show, which is a big music convention. And Ramped is partnered with MIDI, and we're going to do a bunch of showcases there. After that, we go to LA for a Grammy week. So because we've got that nominated project, exactly, and I being a trustee as well. So there's just a lot of parties, hellos. And during that time, we will be releasing the book out in LA. And a huge shout out to Phoebe Robinson of Tiny Reparations Books under Penguin Random House. That's our imprint. Woo, Black owned. And then after that, after the Grammys, we come back and we kick off our book tour. So we're going to be going to at least 8 cities now, but please keep checking back to lachimusic.com/books or lachimusic.com/events to see what the dates are. But also you can click a button and try to get us to come to your city, which we would love to do. And then after that, I am working on a kids pop music album centered on neurodivergence and disability identity. So I'm talking about rap bars and just, quirky, cocky lyrics, but for kids. So it's still my caliber of music. But for kids and families. So I'm hooking up with Andrew Barkan and Polly Hall, as well as Lucy Kalantari, all known in the kids music space, all who identify with disabilities, all who are Grammy either winning or nominated. And I'm working with a bunch of other music professionals with neurodivergences and disabilities who are super talented, award-winning folks who have worked on just multi-platinum projects. And we're bringing them all together on this album. And it's called, well, I probably can't say the name yet because we're still trying to work on it.
That'll be a surprise when we repost you later to say, and now it's out under this name.
Yes, we'll tell you guys and we'll let you know so that you guys can announce it to the world. But we're working with Platoon Kids, which is a great label out of under Apple. So we're really, really excited. That's going to be our next big project. And so that's going to be released in July. And so I'll stop there. So that's like my first half of the year.
which is phenomenal because I can't wait. And the reason why, the children aspect I think is so important is that now you can have kids say, I could do this. I too can do this. Right. And you're that inspiration again on their vision board now to be able to say, look, I don't have to wait until I'm 16 or 26 to, unmask. They'll see themselves in you and how phenomenal you are. And all the music artists that you mentioned who have, similar disabilities. So that is phenomenal. And I cannot wait for that to go out so we can share it. Lachi, I am so touched of having you on this show and to be able to not only just share your story, but also show the world of how fucking phenomenal you are. And I literally cannot, I'm going to buy a Lachi shirt and make sure that people ask me who you are if they don't know you yet. And tell the world about how to reach you and go to your website and buy your book and buy the cane. Because I think it will, in a few years, your platform will change so many lives. If for those of you that haven't been changed by Lachi herself, you will be changing and sharing and reposting this video with all those people in your life that need to hear from her directly. And the story of going from having the ability to give yourself almost an excuse to not do something to being phenomenal as you and saying, I am comfortable and I'm empowered, I'm strong, I'm an advocate, and all the things that you have mentioned thus far about yourself, that you are absolutely phenomenal. I'm excited for the 2026 year and what's next for you. I can't wait to hopefully, applaud your Grammy win and to make sure that everyone knows that you have won once you, get that Grammy, but also just celebrate you and all the accomplishments that you have already accomplished thus far, without the fact that, whether the Grammy happens or, something else happens along the way, it is the ability to say that you have changed people's lives. And I do this podcast for that exact message, to be able to say, learn the lessons from someone who has stepped through their own journey and learned through either the good and the bad about overcoming something, and let their lessons open doors for you to make sure that you don't struggle and have those same failures they did, because they are literally kicking the door open for you, and be able to be inspired by your journey. And I can't wait to read your book, because I think I will learn so much more about you and your journey thus far that obviously we don't have time to tape on a podcast. However, I can't wait to bring you back, and, whenever you have time for us again, to be able to say what the book has done, what you've heard, people's stories tell you about what you've enabled them to do, and keep shining. I can't tell you how much your aura comes through, and your voice, and how amazing you sound when you speak about your advocacy work. And also the music itself, fucking amazing. Like, I literally listened, I was at the gym listening to Allegedly over and over and over again. And I was like, how did I not hear this song before? And that's just one of many out there that I was bopping to.
Let me do a quick shameless plug. So when the book comes out, we're also putting out the audiobook. And the audiobook has a ton of music kind of woven through it, which are like reimaginings of my pop songs. So we're also putting out an album alongside the audiobook with all of these kind of acoustic piano reimaginings of my pop songs. Everything from Trust to Black Girl Cornrows, et cetera, et cetera. So we'd love for you guys to check out those songs. It's going to be called Cornrows Reimagined. So check that out. But of course, I have all my other pop songs that are, hitting the charts. We got The Bag, we have Life on Hard, we have Professional. And like you mentioned, we have Lift Me Up, we have Allegedly. There's so many songs out there that I would love for you guys to check out. But be sure to check out Cornrows Reimagined, because those songs are woven through the audiobook. And they also add just like another layer.
I also do prefer to audiobook every book I get, because it is something that allows you to multitask. And you hear it through the person's voice, which I love. When someone reads their own book and you hear their inflections in their voice, it really comes through, I think, with so much more heart than just reading, words on a page. So I am all for audiobook, and, my gym time is usually where I listen to most of my books, but it's also, on walks and runs and everything else. But on that note, I will link everything about you in this podcast so that people can have the website, the reach out, the book, everything in one place. So you are absolutely going to hopefully be reposted, reshared, reliked. Everything else about you will be out there and flooding the global stage. And on that note, thank you so much for your time. I am inspired.
Thank you so much.
I am forever grateful. And I can't wait to see what everything else you do and reshare hopefully with you once again. And, whenever time you have for it, because I guarantee you in 5 years, you're going to be like, Kathy, who? You're going to be like, that podcast I did.
Girl, I got you. Well, listen, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It was such a pleasure.
All the love and all the best of luck and whatever else you do that we haven't heard of yet. Like, repost, reshare this podcast to everything out there. And I look forward to seeing you on the next Top Lessons. Thank you, Lachi.